రేపు కాదు లైఫ్ అంతా ఫ్రీగా లేను వాటితో బిజీగా ఉంటాను.
Hello. Yeah, hi. A very good morning and good evening to everyone. I hope my voice is loud and clear to all of you. Thanks, Radhika. So I'm just give me 1 minute. I'm just sharing my screen. Okay, so good morning all. Uh, I hope you can all see my screen right here. First of all, I'm very sorry. Yesterday we had to cancel off this session because actually it was the festival of Holi and I had to travel a lot. So my health just went down because of that. So I was not in a position to take the training. So I had to inform you all at a very last moment. So very sorry about that. Today, what we're going to do is we are going to start off with the new topic altogether, that is the SQL Server. Basically, we are all going to learn SQL today, and we are going to start off with that. And the topic that we're going to start, and then the technology and anything that the things that we're going to start today are something very important when it comes to data science, right? Because SQL is something like the backbone of data science industry. So whether you any tool that you will be using, right, whether it will be Python, R, Tableau, Power BI, you all will see that the use of SQL is something that would be there. That is use case of SQL would be everywhere. And then I'll tell you like what exactly SQL is and why it has become so important and has become backbone of this data science industry. So that is, the agenda and the topic we are all going to start off with. But before I just start on with that, so I hope you all were able to access the Excel case studies and the test that I shared with you. I guess I saw a couple of messages from few of you that you were not able to access it, and I have given the access to all of you as well. But I'm not sure because although the files that I had shared, they were free to be used. I hope now all of you have the access to it, or anyone still having any challenge in terms of accessing the file. Okay, so I assume you all have the access to it. So let's get started. So now today, today we are going to start off with the SQL. Right now, SQL is something that stands for Structured Query Language. Sure, Mantri, I'll do it. I'll share that link again. I'll share the files with you. Okay, so structured query language, right? So now SQL is something which has been, it's a language which is declared as universal language to work with databases. Okay, so now I've written a line over here where I'm saying, that SQL is a universal language to work with databases. So now what are databases and what SQL is? Let's try to first figure that out. See, when we store the data, right? So up till now, and Excel is something that you all would be really comfortable with in terms of storing and managing the data and handling the data in the Excel. But what happens is Excel has some limitations. Can you think of what are those limitations in terms of storing the data in Excel? What limitations do you feel that Excel has when it comes to storing the data? Radhika, no, you can link it. You can link an Excel to a server. Like if you come over here, when you are over here, so with the data over here, you can bring the data from SQL Server, analysis services. You can connect Excel to different data sources and servers. Right, Harshad. So basically, the first limitation that Excel has is the amount of data. Right. So what happens is like, in one sheet, we can store only 1 million rows. Right. So we can store only 1 million rows of data. Now that is the first biggest issue that the companies have to face if they have to store their data in Excel, right? Because when we talk of the e-commerce firms, right, like Amazon, Flipkart, Paytm, now these are the firms that are generating data, which is like into millions of rows in a one single day itself, right? In a single day itself, they generate millions and millions of rows. And Excel has a limitation that it can only store maximum of 1 million rows. And that too also happened after 2010, before the versions of that Excel, they only had a limit of like, the very early versions, as far as I remember, they just had a limitation of 3,76,000 rows. Then it was increased to 6,46,000. And now it is 1 million, right? 10 lakh, 48,000, something like this. 48,000 rows, and like 48,000 rows, 576. Now that is the first limitation that Excel has. Second, any other limitation that you feel? Second is data consistency. So what happens is when we store the data in Excel, there is no consistency, right? What happens over there is that in a column of name, you can store age also, you can store something else also. So there is no proper structure that can be managed in the Excel. Even if you have to do that, there's a lot of stuff, there are a lot of work that you will have to do. You'll have to apply a lot of data validations, you'll have to apply a lot of formulas, functions, which becomes very, very difficult to manage. So there is no data consistency that Excel has. Right, Radhika, the third one that you mentioned, the performance. Okay, so what happens in Excel is, if suppose, even if I store 1 million rows of data, and if you will have to do any analysis on that, you will have, if there would be a requirement that you need to fetch some data from there. So Excel will take a lot of time to fetch that data for you, right? Because now since it's already, full with the data, and if you have to do some analysis, now Excel is going to take a lot of time. So that is where the performance is going to hamper, and you will not be able to, complete your work efficiently. And the fourth, and which is also one of the very important limitations that we have, is we cannot have relationships in Excel. Okay, so what do I mean by relationships? See, what happens is, like, I would like to give you a small example for that. Let's take a small example of the company IBM. Okay, so we have a company IBM. Now, IBM as a firm, it would be having multiple departments, right? There will be a department of uh, finance, right? Then what is going to happen is there will be a department of HR. Okay, then what will happen is you will be having a department of transport, right? Then there will be a department which will be like operations. Okay, so I'm just putting these four departments right now. So these are the different departments that the IBM as a firm would be having. Now, what is going to happen is that if I talk about all these teams, now all these teams are going to have the data of the employees only, right? So like finance team is going to have the data of the employees related to the, the salaries and bonuses. HR is going to have the data related to their, joining dates, their performance, right? Their ratings and all. Transport is going to have the data related to their cabs and all. And operation is going to have the data related to the projects that they are working on, right? The projects, the clients that they have worked with, and they are working with as of now. Now, if you see over here, right? So every department is having the data of employees only, but at different level. And now what would be happening in the IBM is that on a daily basis, since IBM is a big firm, there would be thousands of employees who would be leaving the company, and there would be thousands of employees who would be joining the company, right? So there are two type of things that would be happening on a daily basis. Now, when new people join, or maybe the older people leave, that data has to be updated everywhere, right? The data has to be updated everywhere. So like, for example, if the person has left, so now finance should be updating the data that, okay, the person has left, now they don't have to credit the salary, right? Now, what we can do in the databases is we can connect these tables together, right? So connect means that if suppose it happens that in a particular team or in a particular department, some people leave, HR is always the first, the HR is generally the team which gets to know about it the first. So what we are trying to say over here is that if HR updates something, the information should also start getting updated for the other teams as well. Now, this is what we understand by the relationships. And this is something which is not possible in Excel. You cannot draw relationships among the different tables, and relationships are very very important because the way the amount of data and the consistency and the I would say uh, the accuracy with which the data has to be stored over there, this accurations and multiple tables are something that we will all be seeing will be used very very extensively to store the data. Okay, so that is why these are some limitations due to which Excel cannot be used as a full force, as a full, as a resource to store and manage the data for any of the firms. This is where the concept of the databases is used. Okay, so what happens in the databases is the data is stored on a server. Okay, the data is stored on a server. Now, server is something which comes with a huge capacity. And now database do not have any size limitation. They don't have any data size limitation. You can store the data into terabytes, anything. So it totally depends how big server you have. If you have a server of hundreds of GBs, that means you can store data of hundreds of GBs. So totally it depends upon the size of the server that you have deployed, and that is the amount of data that you will be easily be able to store and manage. Okay, so now the first question that will come to all of your mind is that what is a server? Okay, so server is nothing, right? It's a computer or it's a device that is dedicated to manage network resources for carrying out certain specific tasks. So what happens is, like, the people like you, all you would have, the people who have already worked in the company. So they all would have heard a term like, shared server, right? The file, please place the files at the shared server. Now, what exactly a server is, right? So server is something, it's created. The purpose of a server is to share data, resources, and distribute work. Like, for example, my laptop is also a server, right? Because I can store any amount of a data on this laptop of mine, right? So there are different drives that we create: D drive, F drive. Now if I have a D drive of, say, suppose 1 TB, so that means I can store 1 terabytes of data on my machine. So same way, that is what a server is. Now typically, when we talk about servers are something which are used on a shared basis, right? So basically, like, uh, in a company, what happen is there is one central location where which all the people can access, and they can manage and store their data right over there. And the backups of everything is also taken on the server, so in case if something goes wrong, so the things can be retrieved back from the server. Now that is exactly what a server is. So server is just, so it has nothing to do much with the databases. It's more like we are talking about right now a storage location, right? So server is just like a storage location where what we can do is we can store and manage our data, whatever we want, and multiple people can access the server at the same time. Now, why are we talking about multiple people, right? Because what happens is that when the data is generated in any company, data is used by multiple people. It is not that the data will be used by one person or one team. Data will be consumed by almost every team on a daily basis. And if the data is sitting on a personal machine, then the people won't be able to access it. So that is why the companies have to set up a server where multiple people can access it at the same time. Right? So that is what a server is. So what is a database? So database is nothing. So database is a organized collection of data stored in a standardized format. Okay, so basically database is like, we can call it as a folder where you will be storing all your data in a managed way, right? Like what happens is when we are working on a project, so we create a folder of that project, and where what we do is we say that, okay, all the files related to this project, we are going to save in this folder. Now, same way database is something like that only. It's like a folder where you are storing all your data into one single place in a standardized format. Okay. Then what is a relational database? A relational database is, it is just like the database that you have, you can create relationships between them, right? That is what I was telling you, the IBM one example. All the data that you have stored, you can create relationships between them. So that is called as relational database. I hope you all are getting it. Anyone, any questions or doubts up till here? Anything you would like to ask? Okay. Then we will be talking about DBMS and RDBMS, right? So DBMS is what? DBMS stands for Database Management System. Now it's a software platform, right? It's a complete software that hosts or define a database on a hardware, right? Basically, now this is a software that we will be using, which will help us to manage or create all these databases, right? These are the software that help us to manage and store the databases. And where do they store it? They store it on a server, right? That is the hardware where it will be stored. Now, in order to work with this DBMS, what we need to do is we have to use a query language, and that query language is SQL, that is structured query language. Now, SQL was founded in 1970s, right? It was developed by IBM in 1970s. And when IBM was, when this SQL was launched, it was declared as a universal language to interact with the databases. Okay. So it was declared as a universal language to work with the databases. And we will be also talking just in a little while. There are lots and lots of DBMS software that are available in the market. And for every DBMS, a person should only know one thing, and that is SQL. And it's very easy to learn. It's very simple language. The way we interact in English, that is how SQL is written. It's very simple. I mean, it's very simple. And it's not like it's a very technical stuff. It's more like, non-technical people, they also can learn it very quick and they can write it down. So what had happened was, like when SQL was launched, that is when the concept of DBMS started coming up into the market. So in the very initial time, it was DBMS that came. Then DBMS was, modified, and we got the concept of RDBMS. Now, what is RDBMS? RDBMS means Relational Database Management System. So it's just like, again, when you are able to create the relations between the multiple tables, that was something that was named as Relational Database Management System. So now what happens is there are lots and lots of different relational databases products that are available in the market, right? So I guess SQL Server, Oracle, these are some names you all would have heard of as well in your day-to-day, tasks that when you work in the company, right? SAP, SQL Server, IBM DB2. Oops, sorry. Hello, can you hear me now? I'm sorry, I think just my mic moved a little bit. Okay. So, there are different databases that are available in the market, right? Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, MS Access, PostgreSQL. Now, these are all, the different products on which the databases can be created. Okay. These are the products from the different companies on which what we can do is we can manage, store the data. And the good thing is that all these softwares, they just need one thing, and that is SQL. If you know SQL, you can technically work on any of these tools. You will just have to spend a little bit of a time in order to understand the interface of that software. But SQL is something that will be used on all these platforms. And in our training, what we will be doing is we will be using Microsoft SQL Server. Right? We will use this Microsoft SQL Server to learn SQL and explore everything about databases, what databases are and how do they work, right? So it's a product of Microsoft, right? And we have a free version of SQL Server which is available, which we will be using to download and install. Now, if you see from here, The name itself tells SQL, as in, because we will be using SQL to do each and everything on this. Server, as in a storage location. That is how the name has come up, SQL Server. Basically, you will writing the SQL queries to manage and create your databases, and all the databases will be stored on a server, right? Which will be your own local machine in this training case. But when you will be working in the on the projects, mostly the server is going to be a shared location where all the data will be saved. Okay, so this is the software that we all are going to use. I'll just guide you that on how you will be able to download and install this. Okay, in order to use SQL Server, you will have to install some software onto your system. And I'll just guide you now that how and from where you will be able to do it. See, I've shared a link with all of you. And from here, you need to download the Express Edition. The link that I've shared, you actually have to download the Express Edition. Okay, so you'll have to download this application. So once you download this, the file will get downloaded quickly, but when you will install it, this is going to download a lot of files from the internet in order to properly install it. So when you will run this file, you all just have to click on basic, and then you just have to start accept and start the installation. That's it. You just have to make sure that you just select the basic from here, and you have to start the installation. So it is going to take 10 to 15 minutes. What you can all do is you can apply this on the download and installation parallelly, and it will keep on getting installed by the time we just do a certain things over here. I hope you all are able to access this link. Okay. So once you start installing it, so I'll just click on yes because I already have this. Now, when you install this, right now, this Express version that you all are installing, it's a free edition. Okay, it's provided by the Microsoft just so the people can explore and they can learn SQL. That is where this Express edition has been created. And when you install this, the file that you are installing right now, what this file is going to do. This file is going to create. This file is going to create a server on your system. Okay, what this file will do is this will create a server on your machine. where the databases and all the data would be stored. So this is going to create a server on your system. This is the file that you all are downloading right now. Once this file gets downloaded and installed, right? Once this is installed, after this we will have to install one more file, which I'll just tell you right now from where and how you will download it. That is called as SSMS. Okay, so you all are storing, what we are doing is we are installing SQL Server, and over here we have SQL and server. For server, what we are doing is you all are installing a Express Edition. This is going to create a server on your machine. Okay, this will create a server on your machine where all the databases will be stored. Okay, first thing is this. Then what we will be installing is we will be installing SQL Server Management Studio. This is something that we also call it as SSMS as an abbreviation, SQL Server Management Studio. Now, what is this? This is a client which helps us to write SQL queries and interact with the server. Okay, this is what the another software is we all will be installed. Okay, so I'll just share the link of that also. So what happens is, once you will install this application, once you will be installing this application, the moment everything will be installed, in the last there is a window that will open automatically. So it is something in the last will come by default. It will ask install SSMS. Over there, when this will be installed, right? When Express Edition will be installed, you will get a message in the last, install SSMS and close. There will be two things that will come, right? Like it happens like when we install any application, it comes over there in the last, it says finish. That means the installation is done. So you will also get similarly two options, install SSMS or close. If you click on close, the window will be closed. But if you will click on install SSMS, if you will click on install SSMS, what will happen is you will be redirected to a link. You will be redirected to a link, which would be this. This is the page that will open up on your machines, or you can also directly after the installation of the server, what you can do is you can directly come to this link also. Both the things will be same, right? You can come directly to this link also after that. Okay, so first, once your SQL Server is installed, you come to this link, and when you hover a little down, this is where you will find the link to download the SQL Server Management Studio. This is the link you will find over here. Okay, so if you will click on this, this is going to download an application. Now this will be a little heavy application, which is around 640 MB. And once you download and install this, this will install the client onto your machine. Okay, so we will be using SSMS to deploy, monitor, upgrade data components, and build queries and scripts. Now this is the tool which we will be using to interact with the server.
Yeah, question here. So my question is that, like in this case, for training purposes, we are downloading the different client to interact with the server. But in real life, who is the client, and do they all have to install such clients on their
See,
computer?
what happens is, see this client that we use, now we need only one client. Now, say suppose, let me give you an example. Suppose we have like 6 people in the meeting right now, okay? And you all are using your laptops. And suppose you all have some server created, you all have SQL Server, this Express Edition that I told you, you all have this installed, okay? So you like, Rama, you will be having some databases, on, I mean, on its machine. Then certain databases would be there on the Radhika's machine, and likewise, everyone would be having different databases on their systems right now. So what we do is we just need one client, and let me show you. Let me just show you a second. You will just start making a lot more sense. Let me just launch this let me launch SSMS over here. So I just need one application, that is this SQL Server Management Studio. This is the one that you will be also installing onto your files. So when you launch this SSMS, right, this is a client to interact with the database. So the very first thing, right, the very first thing that this SSMS asks for is it asks for the server name. It will ask that to which server do you want to get connected. Okay, now this is going to ask about that. Suppose if the server is on my on my personal laptop, in that case, I will just give my laptop name, or I will give my IP address. I will give the IP address of my laptop. So SSMS will understand that I want to connect to that particular machine. If suppose I want to connect to the databases that are on your machine, so I just need the IP address of your machine. If I know the IP address of your machine, and my machine, right, my machine is allowed to interact or to to connect with your system, right away my SQL Server will fetch all the databases that are on your machine. Getting the point? So
One
in this,
server, multiple clients can extract it.
sorry,
So from one server, multiple clients can connect and.
no, one client, but it can be connected to multiple servers. Now this is one client that I have, that is this Merriman Studio. Client is one,
Okay, yeah. You can connect to
right?
multiple
So
servers.
client is one, and I can use this to connect to any number of servers that I want. Till the point provided I should have the access to those servers. That's it.
Okay.
So basically what will happen is, like, when you will be working in your when you will be working on the projects in the real time scenario, so over there you will be having this client installed. Now when you work in the basically the real time scenario on the project, you will use this client, and over here what you will do is you will put the IP address of that shared server. You will be putting the IP address of that. So the administration team, they will provide you the ID password. And now what happens over there is, like, on a server there is a complete data about the company, and every person is not authorized to see any kind of a data, right? What it happens is, say, suppose, like if I talk about Paytm. Now Paytm is a company, as a firm, it would be having the data related to the orders that we place, right? Like which customer purchased which item. It would be having the information regarding the merchants, right? The people, the customers who are selling the products on the platform. And Paytm also has the confident or the personal information of the customers, right? Like, as in, when we put mobile numbers and when we store all our card details and everything, all those details are also saved on the server of the Paytm. Now when it comes to these personal details of the customers, now that is something which everyone is not authorized to use or access, right? Only limited set of people are authorized to see it. So what happens on the server is you can apply a lot of security conditions. So now on that server also, when you connect from your machine, they will give you a username and they will give you a password. So based on your username and password, it is only going to show you the data that you're authorized to see. So there are a lot of settings and security settings that can be applied on the server. But yes, to answer that question back, you just need one client, and with that client, you can connect to any number of servers you want.
Okay. Because in the image, usually they show like a server in the middle, and then they show different clients connecting to that. There's one server which has all the database and different.
No, so this was basically this image that I was showing you. This was basically the information for a server. So what happens in a server is basically now this client mean the users. So like, we are the 5 to 6 people, and how are we interacting? We all are interacting with the help of this. We all are, connecting with the, like, on the Zoom server right now, right? This meeting is happening through Zoom. So server is of Zoom. And what is now happening is you also have a Zoom installed on your machine. I also have a Zoom installed on the machine, and other people also have the Zoom installed on their machine. With their Zoom application installed, we all are able to have this combined meeting over here. Now, my client, if you see, the Zoom is the client, right? So every machine is having their own client, right? Now, if suppose if I have to, enter into another meeting, so do you think I will be installing Zoom again? No, I will be using the same Zoom application again. In that case, what is going to happen is the meeting is going to happen at another location. So whatever that meeting would be, all those people will come at that location and they will start interacting. All those people just need Zoom application. That is what client is. So client over here basically is the users who are going to access the data. Now every user will have its own client. So one client can interact with number of servers and number of users. So that the client over here refers to that context, that client as in the different users right now. So multiple clients. So you will be having your own SSMS. I will be having my own SSMS, and I can hit the server at the same time. And if there are multiple servers, so those clients can hit on the different servers as well. That is what this complete diagram means.
Also, another question. So, like SSMS, we are downloading to access SQL Server. Can
Mhm.
SSMS be used for other applications like MySQL, Oracle, or because
No,
it's one language only, right? SQL.
no, only for SQL Server.
Okay.
So, so basically, because every the different application, they have their own way of storing the data. So SQL Server will only be able to retrieve the data that is stored in the MDB format, but it won't be able to access the file in any other format now. Any other thing? Anyone? Any doubts or still any confusion? So Anusha, Harshad, Sumati, are you? I hope you all are clear on this. Radhika.
Amit, are we going to do any hands-on today on the server or anywhere, or you're going to do theoretical explanation?
No, today it will be more like theoretical only.
Okay.
So because I know that it is going to take some time for the complete installation.
Yeah, I
So
am having problem with that. That's why I'm asking.
no. So you can just ensure that before tomorrow session you have this installed, so
Okay.
that you can all do all the things parallelly with me, hands on.
Okay. Thank you.
It did not install for me. It's saying unable to install SQL Server, and error it's giving is the previous installation required a reboot of the machine for changes.
So you will have to do it. Basically, what happens is that in order to meet the minimum requirements of the so SQL Server needs certain .NET frameworks and all. So while you install that Express Edition on your machine, so what it does is it installs a lot of things in the backend. So that is where it asks for a restart, and it can happen for some of you that it might ask for a couple of restarts. So you will have to restart it and then click on the setup again and start that process all over again. So that is how it will go. So maybe you can do it if you are using the same machine for the meeting also. So maybe you can do it after the session. So you can just restart it and click on that setup file again and start installing it again. Okay. And I hope you all are using Windows machine only, right? Do we have anyone who is using Mac over here? Because on Mac, this SQL Server is not going to work. Yeah, because on this Mac, so most of the Microsoft products, they do not work on the Mac, or if you have to do it, you have to install a Docker and create a virtual machine over there, and then you will have to install it. No, perfect. So I'm Windows only.
Also in the exercises which you had shared for Excel, if we, I had some questions actually about data validation. So
Okay.
maybe we can
So have
do.
you tried?
Hmm.
So I think I did 3 or 4 exercises with you, right?
Hmm.
Sure. So maybe others, have you all also tried that? Anyone else also have some questions? Right. So what we can do is maybe tomorrow we can keep the starting 15-20 minutes just for the query session on the Excel files that I shared, and then probably we'll start ahead. Okay.
Sure.
And also I just wanted to ask one more thing. Is it possible for you all if we start the session 1 hour early from tomorrow? Will that be fine? Like right now, like we start at 7 a.m. IST. If we start at 6 a.m. IST, will that be feasible for all of you? Okay, so Radhika, so,
Yeah, I'm good with the timing.
okay. So what we'll do is tomorrow we'll just start 1 hour early so that we'll also keep the sessions. Yeah, so we will be keeping the session for 90 minutes. So that is how we will take it. So from 6 to 7:30, that is IST time. Yeah. Okay. See, now you know what I will, let's now discuss about the structure of the database. See, what happens is how we store the data in a database is it's somewhat similar to Excel only. The things are not different from Excel. You will find a lot of similarities what we have in the SQL Server databases or any of the databases and the Excel, right? So what is a database? Database is nothing. It's a collection of objects. Okay, database is a collection of objects, right? Like what is an Excel workbook? When we talk about Excel workbook is a collection of worksheets. One Excel workbook can have multiple worksheets inside it, right? Like one workbook can have 10 worksheets, 15, 20, 30, any number of worksheets inside it. And within the worksheets, you have the data, right? This is how the things are managed, right? So we have a workbook, and within the workbook, there are multiple worksheets, and within that worksheets, we have a data. Now, similar is the concept with the databases. Database is like a workbook, right? Database is like a workbook. Inside the database, what we do is we create tables. Okay, inside a database, we create tables, and we can create any number of tables that we want. We can create any number of tables. Now in the databases, what we do is we build and create everything from the scratch, right? Like in Excel, what happens is you get all the things pre-created. Like when you open any new Excel file, what is going to happen is you will get the structure, everything ready. That this is sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3. You want to add new sheet, you will add a new sheet from here. And if you want to store some data, you want to store the ID, the name, the age, the gender, and you will start typing your data right away. Okay, this is how we work in the Excel. But when it comes to working with the databases, just a so when it comes to working with the databases, over there, you will be actually building everything. You will be creating a table where you will say that in this table, I want 4 columns. So you will create 4 columns in that. And you will have to specify what all columns you want. That you will say, I want a column of ID, I want a column of name, I want a column of age, I want a column of salary. So in databases, you create every object. Okay, if you want to have 5 tables, you will create 5 tables first of all. and then you will start inserting the data in it. So that is how databases work. And the way the data is stored, it is exactly the similar way the way you have the data in the worksheets. That is how the data looks like, and that is how you all are going to consume the data as well. Okay, now this is, and if you see over here, you can see there are some tables, and these tables are connected to each other. Okay, now why do you see so many tables? Why do you see so many tables? Let's try to understand it with a small example. So, all of you would have used Amazon or, the Flipkart applications. So what happens is when you purchase something from Amazon, so the moment you purchase something, you all would have noticed that there is a order ID that gets generated. So technically, when you purchase something from Amazon, in the backend, there is a data that is generated. So what's that data? That is order ID, then customer ID, customer name, right? They will have the information related to the product ID, product name, price, merchant, supplier ID, supplier name, right? And for the customer, they will also store their address and the phone number. Okay, so now say suppose there was first order that was sold, it was purchased by a customer, his name was Sam and his ID was C1. Okay, and his address was lane 1 and his phone number is 1234. Suppose he purchased an iPhone. The ID of that iPhone is P1 and the name of the product is iPhone and the price is, suppose I am saying 40,000, and it was purchased, and when he purchased that item, so it was being shipped by the supplier and the name of the supplier ID is S1 and supplier name is, say suppose ABC ABC Mobiles. Okay, now second order is placed. Second order is purchased by a customer C2. His name is Harry. He lives on lane 2. This is his number. He also purchased an iPhone. He also paid the same price and supplier was also the same who was shipping that item. Now give the third customer, C3. His name is Tom. He lives on lane 3 and he also purchased the same stuff. Okay. Then very next day, customer C1, whose name was Sam, he came and he wanted to buy another product and he purchased, say suppose P2, say suppose that was a laptop. So I'm saying Dell laptop. The price was 50,000. And the supplier is, say suppose S1 again. So now this S1 supplier is selling the laptops also. Okay, and the same thing happened for the Tom also. He also next day came and he purchased again. He also purchased a Dell laptop only, right? So because it is possible that the customers can purchase similar kind of products. Now this is how the data was generated. Okay, and this is the ID number 4. This is 5. Now, do you think there is some problem with this data? Yep. Anyone?
The repetition of customers.
Sorry?
In the names. When we are retrieving the names, the repetition of the customers or something.
So basically, if you try to see right now, if I'm storing the data, there is a lot of repetitive information if you see throughout, right? Like the name is Sam, lane 1, Tom. These customers are different, but definitely the customers can be repeated every time. And And if that is the case, I am storing that information again and again. Okay, if you come over here, all the people who have purchased the iPhone, for them, I am just storing this information again and again, that this is the supplier information and all. So what we generally do is, because when you store the data like this, every data that you store is going to take some space. Okay, it is going to take some space. So what we do is, if suppose this sheet that I have, I'm calling this as main data. Now you tell me, if I store the customer ID and the customer name, the address and the phone number, if I just store all those things in a separate table, okay, over here. So I have all these customers and this phone numbers. If I just store all this information over here, now if you think, I have just said that, okay, I have 3 customers, C1, C2, C3. These are their names, these are their address, and these are their phone numbers, right? In this, I am storing only the customer info. And now if I come back to the main data, don't you think there is no need for me to store this information now? Now what happened is, when the customer C1 comes and he purchases something, now Amazon already has all the information of C1 in another table. That his name is Sam, he lives on lane 1, and his phone number is 1234. Right? So in the main data, I don't have to now, if again C1 comes to purchase any other product, suppose P3, and he plans to buy, say, suppose some speakers, right? Speakers were of 20,000, and the same supplier was selling the speakers also. Now if you see, I just have stored C1. I didn't had to store address and everything again, because that is already available over here. So I can refer back to this table and I can say, oh, C1, he's Sam, so I have delivered this product on lane 1 and I have to contact him on the number 1234. Making sense what we have done? Similarly, if I come over here and I pick this, I create another table over here, in which now what I'm doing over here is, this is the table that I'm calling as product info. Okay. Now in this table, the main data, I don't need to store the price and all again. If a person buys P1, I can come to this table and I can say, oh, okay, the P1 is iPhone, the customer has purchased iPhone, they have to be billed 40,000. So we have to charge 40,000 from them. Similarly, I create another table over here, that is supplier info. And in this, what I'm going to do is, I am going to store the supplier ID and the name, that is this, right? Now, if you see, S1 means he is ABC supplier mobiles. I don't have to repetitively store this information again and again. Now, what we have done is, I have broken up this data into multiple tables, due to which my data redundancy has been managed. I don't have to now store the same thing again and again. Right? Now, if I try and create this table, a small diagram over here, in this table, this is the main data, right? On one side, I have a table that is product table, or I will call it as customer info. This is the customer info. The other side, I have the product info. This is product info. And over here, I have the supplier info. Now, if you see over here, these tables are connected to the main data, because in the main data, I just have the IDs. If I have to look what is the name of the customer, I will go from this table to this table and I will be able to find that information. Now, if I have to look about the product information, I can go from this table to this table and I can find that information. And if I want to find the supplier information, I can go from this table to this table and I will be able to find that information right away. So the tables are kind of related. Making sense? What I'm trying to convey, all of you? Right. Okay. So now, do you think there could be a customer present over here, which is not present over here? Is it possible that I store some ID over here, C4, and C4 is not present over here? Is it like, I'm not asking technically, I'm asking logically. Is it logically possible? Yep. What do you think all? See, logically, no, right? Because if I say C4, I store C4 over here. Now I don't have any information. How will I get to know that what C4 is, who C4 is, what's his address, what's his name, what's his phone number? Logically, it's not possible, right? Because what we are doing is every information that we are storing over here, we have the follow-up information in the next table. So if that information is not present over here, so logically that should not be present over here also, right? Can it happen that I have a information over here? Can it happen that the information is present over here, but not over here? Is that possible? Yes, right, Radhika? So that is possible, right? Because many a times what we do is we create an account, right? We go to the Amazon website and we create an account. So the moment you create your account, right away, your ID is generated, your name, address, and everything is stored. But till the time you will not order something, till the time you will not purchase something, that information is not going to come up over here, because over here we just have that information when a customer buys something or when a customer purchases something. That is when we enter that information. Now after a 1 month or 3 months, now Susan plans to buy a mobile phone, so her information will come over here that C4 has purchased P1, right, which was shipped by S1. So now what you all will do is you will say, oh, P1, oh, let me check for that product is. You will say that is iPhone. Now I didn't have to write this iPhone and price again. You see, I just stored one line of information, that is P1. And then I wanted to see who the supplier is, that is ABC Mobiles. Now there could be a lot of information about the supplier also, right? Supplier address, right? There could be supplier address and a lot more information, right? Warehouse address and all that stuff. So we can store all that information once in this table over here. So that is basically where the relationships come into the picture, where we can break the data into multiple parts and then we store the data in a very, very logical way so that you don't have to save the same information again and again. Now, because just imagine from the context of Amazon, there would be lakhs of people who would be buying iPhone every day. I mean, the lakhs of iPhones would be sold from their platform on a daily basis. Now they can't keep on storing again and again Apple iPhone, Apple iPhone, Apple iPhone again and again. They would have created a simple table and they would have just given an ID to that. And that is how we recognize it, right? Like when you join a company. So why is an employee ID is given to all of you? So that it gives a unique identifier. And you basically, wherever you're billing, your salaries has to be credited, so they don't have to keep on following what that customer name is, what your Aadhaar card number, PAN number is. They have just stored, they say, they see and they update the salary based on that employee ID and they credit the salary according to that, right? So this is where, this is how the databases are used, and this is what exactly the meaning of relationship is, that how the tables can be connected to each other. Okay. So Radhika, is the data stored in servers manually or servers can get data from the... So data is not always stored manually, because manually storing the data can become very, very tedious task. So when you talk about Amazon, so the data is stored through that application, right? When we use that Amazon application or when we use the website of that Amazon, right from there, the information is generated and automatically it gets stored into the servers, right? Like for other example is when you go and purchase, do some shopping from a superstore, right? When you go to a superstore, you all would have seen they use a bar scanner, and you all would have noticed the moment they scan that code, right away the information comes onto their machine that this product is this and this is the price and all, right? You all would have seen it. So at the superstore also, there is a database that they manage. And how do they store the data? The moment they punch in the product and all the information comes up and they are able to generate your bill, whatever items you have purchased, right? And before you buy something, what they do is they ask from you, what is your mobile number and all. With the help of that, they are able to fetch all that information, like what are your past orders and if there are any reward points that you have in your account. So they are all able to tell you about all those things. So over there, the system is again, the data is generated with the help of machines, or I would say softwares. Okay.
So I just thought I'll say it. So when we have applications which, like for example, in banks, so we have clients and the sales people, the front office people, they interact with information from the client, and they save it in their different maybe CRM systems, and that gets stored. That information gets stored in their databases.
Right.
Is it possible that, so when the applications, they get that information in eCRM application or in Amazon, the UI app, how is that app, is it somehow connected to the server and it knows what the tables are, it knows how to feed the data in those tables?
Yes, yes. In the backend, everything is taken care of by the code, right? For example, when you create an account on Facebook, right? So it asks for you, what's your name, first name, your email and password. The moment you click on sign up, right? The moment you click on sign up, then what happens is that sign up runs a command and that will insert the data into that respective table of the where all the IDs and names are stored. So it pushes the data automatically over there. So over there, a person doesn't have to manually store it, because I will be showing you that for inserting a data, we have to write a SQL query. So that SQL query is embedded in the backend. That the moment you click on sign up, it will fire that insert into data and it will insert the data inside that table. Okay, like you all have, has anyone of you ever used the the user forms in Excel? Has anyone used user forms in Excel?
Yes.
So it's exactly like that. You know, in user form, what happen is you fill that information in the user form, and when you say, you know, submit, it will put all the information in the respective cells. Whatever you would have written, you know, whatever code you would have written on that submit button. So that is the same thing that happens with the application also. When you say buy and you make the payment, right away that information goes and gets stored into the tables.
But
Okay.
that is stored, like in Excel, it's clear how it creates a table, but SQL, like you're saying, that their tables are of a specific format, and whoever must have, you know, made that technology or made that architecture for that company would have decided the format of those tables.
So that format, keeping that format into account, that is how the application layer is created. So first you get the database. Right now in the database, you already specified that when you are inserting a new data, you have to insert the date, the item and the price. So the application will also only insert that data into the table. It will not insert anything different. So that application that you will be creating, that will be created with a complete sync of the database that you have. Getting it? Or no, still you have some confusion?
Yeah, got it.
Okay, because everything is, so databases are customized, and same thing happens with the application layer also. It will be customized based on the structure or the schema of your database that you would be having. Suppose if this is the table that you have in your database, the application layer is only going to ask for this information from you. And the moment you punch in, this complete information will go and sit in this table. You will not have to manually insert it. And you know, the things will start making more sense when we will start writing SQL queries, and you will get to know that what exactly would be happening in that UI.
Yeah. And in companies, when we are working on SQL, how would we know what is like the structure of the tables? So we'll have, if do generally employees have access to that? Like
Yep. So if I show you something, see, although I have to come to that, but still I would just like to show you a small example of that. See, if I show you a small structure, you can actually see that structure right over here. Let me pick up this. So if you see right now over here, the same structure that I was trying to create with a simpler data. So now this database has multiple tables, right? This database has fact sales table, it has a date table, promotion table, currency table, dim customer table. Now this table, the customer table and fact are connected to each other, right? And if you will hover on this, it will tell you that how these two tables are connected. So there is a column of fact internet sales between dim customer and fact internet sales based on which the two tables are connected. So you can actually see how the tables are connected to one another. Okay, and you can see all the columns. Now these are all the columns that you have, and if I show you something over here, so you can see the complete data what you have in that table. Suppose I say now select star. You can now see the complete information: date key, full date, alternate key, day, number of week. So if you come over here, you can see those column names: dim date, full date, alternate key, day, number of week. You can see each and every information. Over here you can see the structure, and over here you can see the data.
Okay. And we can even see which columns are present in like how it's connected to other tables. Like there might be some similar columns.
Sorry, can you come again?
I'm saying there might be some similar columns which will be present in other tables. That's how it's related to other tables.
So if that would be, so we'll have to use that simple the other table in that case. So we'll have to understand this thing. So definitely you can only work on the data if you understand the structure and you understand. So basically, if you see right now also this example that I had taken. So in this case also we had a similar columns, right? Like order ID is present over the customer ID is present over here, and customer ID is present over here also. So that is going to happen because that is why we make the relationships, because we have a related information in the different tables.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So yep, so that is where I think we'll take a stop for now. So tomorrow we will be jumping. So I'll just request so that please try to install this systems. If you get any confusion or some problem, you can just ping me on the group, and definitely I'll try to help you out, so that once we start tomorrow, we will start with all the things with the hands-on. So we will be doing each and everything, right? Right now, this stuff that you see right now on your screen, this is more like a developed thing. But how this is created, how this is created, how this is created. So we will be creating each and everything, and we will be defining relationships. That is like the complete course will be, in which you will be learning each and everything from the scratch. Okay. Sure. So thanks everyone. So any specific question before we go you would like to ask? Okay. Sure. So see you all tomorrow. Thanks everyone. So tomorrow we start at 1 hour early, right? Okay. Thank you.